him.
Welcome everyone to our full council on Thursday the 20th of July. Welcome to everyone here and everyone that may be watching online. Item 1 on the agenda is to receive apologies for any absences. I believe we have one from Councillor Hughes-Jones. The other that we're aware of?
Apologies from Councillor Stephen Garrett as well.
Right. Thank you. Item 2. Oh, sorry.
Apologies from Councillor Emma Bryn and Councillor David Jones. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And also, sorry, there's apologies from Councillor Jane Lucas and also Jane McKenna.
Councillor John, was that who you were going to say?
And Councillor Christopher Edwards, but I know Councillor Jane McKenna is hoping to be able to join the meeting later on.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor John.
Thank you, Chair.
Item 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? No, take that a no. Item 3 is the Chair's announcements. They're as read on the agenda. Thank you. And item 3.1, the presentation of the freedom of the borough to the Royal British Legion. So I want to open that with a few words that's been prepared. So, as Chair of Monmouthshire County Council, in accordance with Section 249 of the Local Government Act 1972, it gives me great pleasure to grant the freedom of the Monmouthshire to the Royal British Legion in recognition of and acknowledgement of the incredible work this organisation undertakes supporting ex-service personnel and their families. The Royal British Legion reached a significant milestone in their impressive history when they celebrated their centenary in 2021. During the past 102 years, the Royal British Legion has built an enduring legacy by providing ex-service personnel, their families and carers assistance with health issues, living, housing, financial advice, and much more for as long as they need it across the whole of the United Kingdom. Undoubtedly, everyone in the chamber here today and those watching, wherever they may be, will be aware of the tireless efforts of the Royal British Legion to lead the nation each year in commemorating and honouring those who have served and sacrificed. They bring into memory those who lost their lives on active service in all conflicts, from the beginning of the First World War right up to the present day, as well as all those who have served and their families. Our residents turn out in force to honour those who have sacrificed so much for us all and to show their gratitude to our armed forces community and the work of the Royal British Legion. On behalf of the Council and all residents of Monmouthshire, I would like to thank the Royal British Legion for their tireless support, dedication and outstanding fundraising efforts that have benefited so many over the past century. It is an honour for us to grant the freedom of Monmouthshire to the Royal British Legion, and I'm positive that every member of this authority agrees that it is a fitting tribute of the outstanding contribution they make to our community every single day. Thank you. I'm going to pass you over to our Armed Forces Champion, Councillor Strong.
Thank you, Chair. We're a county that is proud to support the Armed Forces community through our annual celebration of Armed Forces Week and other notable dates throughout the year. Through our work in collaboration with the Supporting Service Children in Wales Cymru programme to raise awareness and understanding of the experiences of children of Armed Forces personnel, and through our partnership with the Monmouthshire Veterans Support Hub based in Abergavenny. And just to note, coincidentally, that the Abergavenny branch of the Royal British Legion, who are represented here today, was the first of the Gwent branches to be formed back in July 1921. Monmouthshire County Council is a proud holder of the gold standard of a Defence Employer Recognition Scheme, and last year won gold as Employer of the Year in the Welsh Veterans Awards. We've signed the Pride in Veterans Standard, and we will continue to actively promote and support the armed forces community in any way that we can. The Freedom of the County is the highest award that Monmouthshire County Council can give, and we're absolutely delighted to take this opportunity to publicly recognise the work of the Royal British Legion and its countless volunteers throughout Monmouthshire. The Council and the local branches of the Legion have worked together for many years to support the armed forces community in Monmouthshire, to ensure that service and former service members and their families get the support and respect that they deserve. Awarding the Freedom of the County also recognises the time and energy, as well as financial support, that many Monmouthshire residents give to the Poppy Appeal and other local fundraising, which helps to raise millions of pounds every year. The Royal British Legion has been a constant and reassuring presence for so many people within our community over the past century, and it's safe to say that they'll be there for many more years to come, offering the same level of support to those people who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strong. I'll now like to invite the group leaders if they'd like to say a few words.
Chair, colleagues, we are delighted to have in attendance today from the Royal British Legion Ken Kerry, who's the Membership Council member for Wales, Gordon Hill, the Gwent County Secretary, Mike Jones, MBE, the Gwent Chairman, and Sarah Wilson, the Membership Engagement. Here in Gwent, we are in a unique position whereby all 5 neighbouring local authorities have granted freedom to the Royal British Legion. This undoubtedly solidifies the respect and value we all place upon this phenomenal organisation and those who are part of it. We recognise how much women and men in the past and now have given in the service of their country, and the duty of care that we all have, and how that is exemplified by the Royal British Legion. I would now call on Councillor John, leader of the Conservative group in our council.
Thank you very much, Leader. And can I associate myself with the remarks that the Chair, our Armed Forces Champion and our Leader have just made. We take a very keen interest in veterans' affairs in this chamber, and we follow very closely the work that Joe and Lisa at the back there do. We were very proud to set up the Veterans Hub in Abergavenny a few years ago, and absolutely recognise the contribution that makes to supporting veterans and their families. Because I still think as a country we don't do enough to support veterans and their families once they've left the armed forces. There is a lot more we need to do. But I do welcome the fact that the UK government now has a dedicated minister for Veterans Affairs, and I hope that will be a permanent role that all future governments will protect, because, as I say, there is more that we need to do. We were particularly proud last year, in June, I think it was, when our Armed Forces Champion, Councillor Strong, went to the Welsh Veterans Awards and collected the Gold Award for Employer of the Year for Monmouthshire, and that was something that we were enormously proud of, and we will continue to follow closely the work of the Royal British Legion and support wherever we can. Remembrance Day and Armed Forces Day are solemn occasions for this council, I really can't emphasise enough how important these issues are to us. We recognise the moral obligations that we have to the veterans community, And if there is anything further that we can do as a council, we're keen to work with you in whatever ways we can. And as I say, there are many issues that might divide councillors, and in this chamber we hear a lot of them, but this is never one of those issues. This is an issue where you will find us all united, and we will all do whatever we can to support you. So thank you for what you have done in the past, what you continue to do, and if there is any way we can help and support, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor John. Councillor Francis?
Thank you, Chair. May I also say that I'm really pleased that the Council is taking this step today, and that naturally it's really good to see that this Council plays a significant role in supporting the work of the Royal British Legion and their work in promoting and supporting veterans across the county. I think there's some really, as Councillor John suggests, we have some heated debates in this chamber, but I don't think you'll find any opposition to this granting today. For my own part, I was very fortunate to act as the Armed Forces Champion while a member of an Iron Bevan Health Board, and that helped me gain an insight into some of that wider work that's done across the wider county of Gwent. But in my own role as an elected member representing Magor and my work with the Town Council, I'm really fortunate to work really closely with the Royal British Legion on a very localised basis, and they are a critical and very important not just, in supporting the needs of veterans and service personnel, but also in that community activity. I live in the same street as Peter and Julie Wilson, the Poppy Appeal coordinators, and they do incredible work, across the piece to try and continue to raise funds to support veterans, but also to make those very solemn occasions, such as Remembrance Day, really a community-focused event where more and more of our young people understand the purpose. So in Magor, we're really fortunate that we see hundreds of people turn out for remembrance. And I think that's really important, that we continue to spread those messages of actually the real sacrifice that is made by our service personnel and veterans. So thank you very much for attending today. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Chandler, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for joining us here today. And I do also want to associate myself with the preceding remarks. I think it's an honour to be able to recognise the contribution that the British Legion have made to supporting our veterans, but also that opportunity to honour those veterans themselves in terms of the sacrifices they've given and our obligation, which, as Councillor John said, we don't always live up to in terms of supporting veterans after they've left the forces, in terms of their need for housing, in terms of their needs for health services and others. So I very much welcome this opportunity for us to honour the Legion and the veterans, and to hopefully also to fulfil the obligations of the Armed Forces Covenant that I was hearing more about as we were talking before this meeting started. So thank you for that. I also wanted to, as I learnt in conversations before we came into the chamber with our colleagues here from the British Legion, I also want to add that about the recognition that the LGBT branch of the British Legion is one of the biggest and most active branches within the British Legion. And I think, given the announcement and the apology that was given yesterday by our Prime Minister to service people who for LGBT community on behalf of the nation, I think this is a very good opportunity as well for us to honour that aspect as well. So thank you very much. I'm so glad you're able to be here. So glad that we were able to make this presentation and to honour you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Councillor Brocklesby, do you, looking at the agenda here, I invite you to...
He's outside. I will now call upon the Chief Executive, Mr Paul Matthews, to join me in signing the ceremonial scroll, and also colleagues from our legal department to affix the common seal of Monmouthshire County Council on that scroll. I think this is a very exciting and joyful moment for the whole council. Oh, there you are.
As if by magic.
It's in a cozy place. For those of you who haven't seen it, it is stunningly beautiful.
Indeed.
A really beautiful piece of calligraphy, and well deserved.
As I sign this, can I also associate all of those comments with the officers of the council?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honour to be asked to receive this scroll on behalf of the Royal British Legion. This is one of 8 now I think I've attended on behalf of the Legion to receive different scrolls from different councils. At every one I've been asked to say a few words. Unaccustomed as I am to speaking, looking at Lisa at the back. What I would like to do is just give you a little brief history of the Royal British Legion. The British Legion, as it was formed in 1921 on the 15th of May, was formed with the amalgamation of 3 army units to look after the welfare of veterans from the First World War. The welfare of serving members was paramount in those days because there was no government help whatsoever. So different associations were giving out help to veterans. In 1928, 5,000 standard bearers from different branches, plus 20,000 British Legion members, made a pilgrimage to the Menine Gate, which had just been finished and was being rededicated. In 1971, the Queen granted the British Legion the Royal Charter, which made it then the Royal British Legion. And in 2018, 1,000 standard bearers from different branches and 2,000 wreath layers made a similar pilgrimage to the Menai Gate to dedicate the 90th anniversary of the first pilgrimage. Since 2018, the Royal British Legion has grown from strength to strength because of the publicity that the pilgrimage had. And at the King's coronation, it was very nice to see 100 standard bearers from various branches parading and doing a salute to the new king on his coronation. Apart from that, thank you very much. It is indeed an honour to receive this pilgrim, this scroll. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. It is indeed an honour, Chair, and I would like you to accept this book, We Are the Legion, on behalf of the Royal British Legion, in gratitude of being granted the freedom of the borough.
That's very kind. I accept this on behalf of the Monmouthshire Council. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'd just like to finally say thank you all, and just to say the Royal British Legion are admitted as honorary freemen of the County of Monmouthshire. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we now move on to council business. You are very welcome to join us, but if you want to make your excuses now. Thank you all very much for coming along. Thank you.
Chair, just see you.
Okay, lovely. Yes, yeah. Shall I wait for you to come back? Yeah. Oh, photos. Oh, right. Sue, do you want to come out for a quick photo? Thank you, everyone. Back to business. Are we all here? Great. Councillor John, please.
Thank you, Chair. I forgot to declare an interest under item 7. I work part-time as a public affairs consultant, and one of my clients is the Railway Industry Association. So I declare that personal interest.
Thank you, Councillor John. Back to the agenda. Just one item that's not on the agenda, and that is I would like to personally thank Matt for his calm manner in helping me transition into the role as this year's chair. So thank you for Matt for that, and wish you good luck in your future career. I think I think our leader here would like to say words, and some of the group leaders would like to say as well. Councillor Brocklesby.
Thanks, Chair. It's real sadness, actually, having only known Matt for 1 year and 2 months, but he's been a really firm friend and guide and supporter during that time of helping us navigate as a new administration and a very new council with 60% being new councillors, navigate our way through the Constitution, navigate our way through the rooms of, in my case, through the rooms of County Hall, but also to navigate our way through the tricky relationships of working across the council, of working with different stakeholders, of how we present the council in a way that is with integrity, with ethics, and with a real sense of pride that is grounded in what our council means to us all through the Constitution. And for me, has enabled me to understand how valuable and what a living document the Constitution is, and how it supports us in our deliberations to be accountable, but also to be certain that what we're doing is right and proper. And you've always made sure things have been right and proper, Matt, for which I thank you personally. But I've also enjoyed your company and the chats we've had on books and our different experiences, which are vastly different. But you can always find common ground when you sit down over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. And your good humour and your willingness to take on board, even if it's sometimes in a very legal way, but your willingness to take on to take on board the range of diverse and lively opinions that we find across the council. And that's been for the benefit for us all. And I will miss you, but I think I can say on behalf of all my colleagues across the council that we will all miss you, and we wish you every good luck in your new post, who quite honestly don't deserve you, and God knows why you had to leave, but you have. And so congratulations and goodbye.
Councillor John. Sorry, Councillor John, yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, the leader referred to the way you've supported members with their navigation. Well, I don't think there's anyone better for that task than a naval officer. So I remember very clearly being sat in this chamber when you came in for your job interview. A similar experience as to what we're going to have later this afternoon. And as I recall, I think you were the only candidate who didn't have a local government career, didn't have a local government background. And I think it's very easy in someone's career to pigeonhole them and think, well, you know, if you want to be really successful at a senior level in local government, then you need that background. But you have demonstrated that you don't. We saw that that stardust, that star quality that you walked in here with, and you have been simply outstanding in the way that you have carried out your role. And I think by the time you reach the end of your career, I think it's going to be the most fascinating story. It's quite interesting already, but as you embark on your next challenge with the National Health Service, you do so with all our good wishes. I remember one of the most sobering times over the last 5 years in your role was when we were confronted with the flash flooding in February 2020. A very, very dangerous time for many of our communities. And what that crisis needed was calm, competent, strategic leadership. And the way that you fulfilled that role, and of course the way that your role has expanded since your arrival here, was something that so many of our residents, for which so many of our residents owe you gratitude. No one lost their lives in that flood in Monmouthshire, but that's not something we can take for granted. It was the response to that situation, bringing together multiple partners and ensuring that the County Council worked effectively to deal with that crisis, that helped ensure that none of our residents lost their lives. As Councillor Brocklesby just said, you've been a fierce defender of the Constitution, the rights and responsibilities of members, and you've fulfilled that role really effectively. So keep in touch, keep climbing those mountains. We'll remember that you're still one of our residents and one of our service users, and the 46 of us will try to make sure that we do as good a job for you as we do for all the other residents in our county. And on behalf of the Conservative Group, we wish you the very best of luck for the future. Thank you very much.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Well, it's really hard to believe, actually, that you've been with us for kind of like around 5 years now. I can't believe how quick that time has gone. And I have to say, as the others have mentioned, you have indeed been outstanding in providing some really key, calm advice, guidance and support for all of us in over that period, not least to help navigate really big items, as Councillor John has just mentioned, but also not forgetting the COVID-19 pandemic also. The thing I remember is when I first spoke to you, I think you were about weeks into the role, and I was picking your brain about some horrible kind of code of conduct type questions and issues. And I have to say, I think probably, even though you were exceptionally new, you just had a total gut way of dealing with some of these things, which is really kind of common sense. And, you know, how do we interpret key items, such as our Constitution? And I have to say, it's been invaluable, and we're really sorry to lose you. But if I have one piece of advice for your colleagues in your new role that you're going to be going into, then it would be, especially if you spent 25 years in public administration, when you're introducing yourself, definitely go before Matt Phillips. because you cannot compete with his experience and story, and you will sound slightly less exciting to yourself and to everyone else. And finally, can I just say, obviously, good luck and good wishes on behalf of the independent group. But Councillor Howarth, in particular, is very much looking forward to seeing you out and about on the bike, and I dare I say it, possibly in Lycra. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Chandler.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, echoing all of that. And I just want to add on my personal sort of thanks, really, because as soon as the election results became clear May last year, then I was immediate. Matt was reaching out, recognising the political balance of the council and my particular role that might be falling into that, and giving me advice in terms of navigating that. And that's what I really appreciate about Matt, is that he recognising some of the challenges, you know, and the stuff that I've brought to him at various points, is that ability to just very calmly but very clearly analyse a situation and set out the options, not in formal legalistic jargon, but just in very human, very accessible way of just actually really breaking down a problem and saying, yeah, this is what it is, this is the options, this is the pros and cons, this is what you could be doing here. And I just think that is such an underrated skill. And I really appreciate that. But the fact that you do that, but you also do it with great warmth and great humour, is quite unique. So I just want to say really thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Before we move on to the agenda itself, did you want to say anything?
I wasn't going to, actually, because I'm already getting my kicks. It's taken me 5 years and 2 weeks to put him in a position where he feels slightly uncomfortable. But I sense that is today. I think, like some colleagues have mentioned, well, as Councillor John mentioned, I had the privilege of being here 5 years and a couple of weeks ago. I think if he were introduced to his interview as Lieutenant Commander Phillips, he would have probably had half the votes in his pocket before he opened his mouth, really. But the interview when Matt came here was spectacular. It reminded, I think, many in the chamber that the military creates leaders and then gives leaders jobs, not the other way around. And for me, I think what we've benefited from is a man who genuinely gets what it means to be a leader, gets the responsibility that comes with that, but has managed to, I think, as Councillor Chandler said, convey a warmth and an enthusiasm which has been with us every single day. He is a real man of Monmouthshire, Chepstow, St Arvansy based when little, now lives in a house called St Arvans in Abergavenny. Entirely a coincidence, I think, but nevertheless, it's a joy, isn't it, that when you see one of your own really excel in a number of walks of life, with so many more yet to come, you can just sit back and say, do you know what, yeah, you can be world class from here. I think for me, and my colleagues sat directly in front of me, I've had the opportunity to work with any number of heads of law, heads of governance. I don't even know what to call Matt anymore, because he has landed and expanded in classical sort of bridgehead sort of way. But I sit here very comfortable in saying, to this point in my life, I have never ever experienced a more accomplished head of law working in a public service setting. And I've known a lot. Technically, their personality, their respecter of democracy, absolutely. A smile when needed, yes. But first and foremost, the military trains leaders. And that's what we've enjoyed as an officer leadership team. All the fun, the occasional dig. We've come to understand that Matt is never wrong. Even when he is, he isn't. It comes at you in a different sort of direction. And we learned that he certainly carries that gene that even when you're not sure, you'll be the most confident man in the room. And that's enough. So we've genuinely loved having Matt here. I have. I thought I might have him for 3 years. It's been a bonus, an absolute bonus to have him for 5. I don't give my friendship easily, but I think in this one I've probably got a friend. And he leaves as part of our alumni, because the important thing is we work hard never to let go. And who knows what the future may hold. There are many, probably more years in front of Matt in terms of his career as there are behind him. So for the fun, the games, the seriousness, the wise counsel right at the peak of the pandemic, we can easily forget that. It was a really trepidatious time to be leading a county rather than a council, and that wisdom, that I guess that calmness that comes, maybe it comes from having spent time in theatres of war, maybe it comes from having a more international and global experience than many carry. They were assets that we had no right to expect, but they walked through our door, and this council was wise enough to take them, I think in a way that not many councils would have done, based on no local government experience. You employ the human being. You work with the human being. You get absolute stars. What they've done is not as important as what they can do. So Matt, it's very genuine that you've been one of the best, one of the best that I've ever worked with. In your role, you're without peer. I wish you well in health. I don't think you'll stay there. But time will tell, because as a sailor, as a submariner, you'll travel with the wind. And I think that's the way that your career will build. I'm going to require you to say something to council. I know it will stick in the craw, but please do so.
Yeah, you have me the complete disadvantage of A, not having expected anything, and B, I can't turn to the Constitution for the answer this time, can I? It's an absolute privilege to sit up here. It's a privilege anyway, I think, for all of the guys around the surfboard and everything else to see what happens in this chamber. I think more so for me, I'll take a punt on the fact that as a kid who used to run around the playground at Pembroke Road Primary School and then Chepstow Comprehensive School as it was when I went, to have come from that background, to have lived in Monmouthshire for most of my life and get the opportunity to sit here and be a part, or at least bear witness to what happens in here and the stewardship of our county is an absolute rare privilege. So it's quite something. Thank you. The strategic leadership team that you have here it's a mix of rare talent and individuals. I couldn't quite get over what it was to come into this organisation and see these people who come from their various backgrounds with their different skill sets, and a chief exec as well, who was willing to take a punt on a complete know-nothing ex-submariner who thought he might have a little bit of a crack at his local council. And of course, a huge thanks to all of you. I don't think you get thanked enough. I don't quite know how you put yourself through that rigmarole of the election night and everything that leads up to it. Again, that honour and privilege of being there, Chepstow Leisure Centre Sports Hall, seeing that coin tossed, for example, seeing what you go through on that evening is not something I could put myself through, and I don't think that gets recognised enough. And a heartfelt thank you for how well behaved you all are, because from a monitoring officer's perspective, that, my word, that makes your life so much easier. So Paul, SLT, councillors, everyone, thank you so much.
Yeah. Right, back to the agenda. If anyone would like to take their jackets off, please feel free to do that. That's no problem. On to item 4 on the agenda. To confirm the minutes of the meetings held on the 22nd of June 2023. we have somebody willing to say that? Thank you, Councillor John. And Councillor Chandler, second it. Thank you. Item 5, the recruitment of Monmouthshire's local access forum. Councillor Birch. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's highly appropriate to follow that perhaps with a very, very minor tweak to our constitution, if I may. The report gives me an opportunity to remind members of the excellent work done by the Monmouthshire Local Access Forum and to thank the volunteer members who have given their time over the years. It is a very important role. The Countryside and Rights of Way Act 2000 placed a statutory duty on every highway and national park authority to set up and maintain a local access forum in its area. And the role of the local access forums is to advise the local authorities, the Natural Resources Wales and the Welsh Government on access developments in their area. It is a critical friend to our countryside services, an advisor and a link between all the bodies with an interest in countryside access. And under the Countryside and Rights of Way Act 2000, a forum must consist of members who represent users of local access land and local rights of way, owners and occupiers of access land and land with rights of way, and other interests especially relevant to the area. Members of the forum are appointed for 3 years and current terms of office are coming to an end. In recruiting the new members of the forum, it would be desirable to have a broad and diverse representation from countryside users, people who work in the countryside and partner organisations, as well as the diverse membership in terms of age, in terms of lived experience, background and gender. And in order to recruit the members of the Local Access Forum for the next 3 years and to fill any vacancies that may arise thereafter, it's proposed to establish a 3-member nominations panel to oversee the recruitment and selection, supported, of course, by the wonderful Monlife Countryside and Rights of Way officers. And because the Local Access Forum is a statutory body, this requires the approval of Council, which I hope you will grant. And in order to give members the opportunity to consider whether this is a task for which you'd like to be put forward, I hope that we can approve the principle today and bring forward nominations to Council for the Nominations Committee at the September meeting of full Council. Thank you. And I hope that's the least controversial thing I do this week.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. I invite anyone to make any comments.
Chair, if I may, just to say we concur with that approach that we will bring forward nominations based on the groups to the September meeting, so that we give the opportunity to nominate members and give Council the opportunity to consider who they are. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So, yep. We'll take a vote on that now. That's been approved, thank you. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, the Constitution Amendment. Over to you, Matt. For your...
Councillor Santos.
Oh, sorry. Or... Yes. Matt will take this one, thank you.
So, councillors, this is, as you know, I normally like to bring the Constitution forward in the AGM, but we've got a little bit out of sync here because the Standards Committee have been reviewing part of the Code of Conduct, which we have the ability to change. So, very simply, there's a piece of work going on reviewing the ethical standards framework across Wales that the Welsh Government have been doing. What they're keen to do is see the standardisation of a threshold at which any offers of gifts or hospitality made across all local authorities. Rather than legislate for it, local authorities have taken the position they prefer to make that decision themselves. And so following discussion within the Standards Committee, the proposal within this report for a £25 threshold is basically what's being put forward, so that can be included within the Constitution. That will bring us in line with all other local authorities in Wales. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I invite comments. So I see Councillor Taylor has your hand up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, as a member of the Standards Committee, we have discussed this, and I think it's eminently sensible addition to the Common Constitution to assist giving clarity to members. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bromfield.
Hi, thank you, Chair. I welcome this addition to the Constitution from the Standards Committee, and I would like to offer my support to its implementation. I feel it's important for all those who work in public office, whether that's an elected member or an employee of the council. It's imperative for us to be open, honest and transparent. In my view, this is an integral part of our Monmouthshire philosophy. So I would like to thank the Chair and members of the Standards Committee for bringing this before Council, and I hope that the rest of the members support this change to our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bromfield. Any other comments?
Yes, Chair, I did have my hand up. Sorry, probably not in the right place.
So
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So my question really is to the Chair of Standards, I guess, through Matt, or through yourself, Chair, if I may. So if the proposal is then obviously to police it ourselves, effectively, if someone offers payment to council for whatever services that would kind of over or cross over into their work as a councillor or community advocate, and that is declined, how does that affect the amendment here?
Yeah, so the Chair of Standards Committee is an independent member, is not present here today, but I can feed that back through. But very simply, this is designed to capture when those approaches are made, whether it's accepted or not. So that's where the consistency comes from.
Oh, okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Yep. Oh, Councillor John.
Sorry, I pressed the button in error. Apologies.
Right. We'll go straight to the vote then in that case. Thank you, that's been approved. Going on to item 7, motions to the council. Item 7.1. Submitted by County Councillor Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Most of you, or well, actually not most of you, but quite a few of you over time have heard me speak around Magor with ND Walkway Station. However, I haven't probably brought a motion during this period. So I just want to quickly, for those who don't know and are not aware, that since 2012, a small group of thoughtful and committed residents have been campaigning tirelessly for a walkway station to serve the communities of Magor with ND. To be clear, this is not just a station, but a unique concept of a walkway station. The concept is entirely individual, where it is quite the opposite of a parkway station, where local residents would walk, cycle, wheel or otherwise take public transport to use the station. The only parking available would be for those with blue badges, and there would be obviously pick up and drop off. Some of you will recall me equally speaking about my opposition to the M4 Relief Road. You'll recall that the M4 Relief Road was, from my point of view at least, thankfully cancelled in June 2019. But it became, at that point, I'm sure you'll agree, vital to residents, both of Monmouthshire and further afield, to see those alternatives to the M4 delivered with some urgency. The Burns Commission recommendations were finalised in November 2020. It is vital, members, that we do see delivery of some of those alternatives, in particular of the new stations proposed for the main line, of which, as you all know, Magor walkway station is a key recommendation. The point about Magor walkway station, unlike some of the other proposals, it is that it is eminently deliverable. It is incredibly cost-effective. And whilst we know that it is a case of when and not if, as we are almost 3 years after publication of those recommendations, we are further seeking this council's support to restate and promote Magor Station's case to those key stakeholders, to further seek reassurance that the walkway concept is indeed set in stone, but that the economic and climate change credentials of Magor walkway station are recognised by all parties. And it is recognised widely that this is a quick win, a really quick win, which can rapidly deliver on modal shift and climate benefit, if only we can see those spades go in the ground. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, I invite any comments on that?
Please, can I second, Chair?
Thank you.
So I'd also like to say that the Conservative group would like to support your motion, Councillor Taylor. We have always recognised the importance of Magor Station and the local area that it would serve. Now more than ever, we cannot take our foot off the gas, or maybe I should say we need to be full steam ahead. Due to Magor and Undy's ever-growing population and now changed status to town, I read there were 40,000 rail journeys from Magor and Undy from Severn Tunnel Junction by those residents. It will certainly benefit the lives of those who live in the area, especially those working in nearby cities and further afield, by providing the option of encouraging active travel and using public transport, and help relieve the daily congestion along the B4245 and the M4 and surrounding Monmouthshire communities. The concept of the walkway station is critical to remain due to the limited space, but to encourage walking and cycling in Magor and Undy. The Burns report speaks for itself and fully supports the Magor project. I hope that TfW and Network Rail will join Monmouthshire in our support and deliver this no-brainer project sooner rather than later. You'll have to excuse me for my speech. I'd also like to thank the members of Magor Station Group for their tireless work on this campaign. This project would not have got this far without the support of people like Francis Taylor, people like Ted, Paul and Lawrence and others in the group. They are fantastic and lead by example. And also the support of officers in Monmouthshire. You've always been fully supportive of this project, so we've all got to get behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dimmock. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's great to hear the enthusiasm from all sides, from every group here, and it's shared by the Labour group, certainly. I can certainly confirm that this administration is fully committed to the Magor walkway station, and as a Cabinet member, I've supported it wholeheartedly throughout the past year. In fact, one of the very first actions I took in this role was to meet with the Magor group, to whom I was introduced by Councillor Crook, and to visit the proposed site last summer with him and others in the group. I was really inspired and enthused by what I heard and hugely impressed with the group and their knowledge and expertise, some of them with really long careers in the railways and with really extensive knowledge. It was fascinating to hear the history of the railways and also to hear Councillor Crook's own recollections of taking the train from Magor as a boy. So since then, so what have we done? You think this is all very nice, what are you actually doing about it? Since then, both the Cabinet and Monmouthshire County Council officers have continued to liaise with the group on a very regular basis, also with the Burns Delivery Group, with the Welsh Government, with Transport for Wales and with the Secretary of State for Wales on this issue. I myself, Cabinet colleagues and County Council officers have attended numerous meetings about it with all of these bodies to support and promote the station, and we will continue to do so at every opportunity. Our own local ward councillors, Councillor Crook and Sandals, actually joined the group in a delegation to the Senedd to promote the project. And I've, in fact, very, very recently had an exchange of correspondence with the Secretary of State for Wales on the issue, because we're conscious of the need to get Department for Transport investment in this. So it's got to be really all sides, and we can't stop pushing for it. We're very clear on that. So you can see that we've lobbied hard for the station to be given priority in its full unique form as a walkway station, and I do believe that the strength of this administration's support has been a positive factor in ensuring that the station stays at the front of regional plans for the railways. We've also referenced the walkway station in our corporate plan as part of our vision for a sustainable and affordable transport system. But in terms of the very specific points that Councillor Taylor has made, let me answer those particular ones because they are very important. The delivery of the 5 Burns stations is being led by Transport for Wales, and particularly the Burns delivery unit in conjunction with Network Rail, as you know. We have had assurances from Transport for Wales that Magor has been designed as a walkway station. The parking provision will be limited to 3 to 4 disabled spaces, and the same number of drop-off and pick-up points. So that's a really important reassurance to be able to give you. We have repeatedly lobbied for Magor to be considered in advance as the first station for the reasons that Councillor Taylor has given. But we've been advised by the Burns Delivery Unit that due to the requirement to undertake works to the South Wales main line in order to deliver the increased train frequencies that are part of this whole plan, the Magor station has to be progressed together with the other stations, and that's why the design is happening for all of them at the same time at the moment. And the station designs are nearing completion. As you've rightly indicated, they'll be subject to public consultation in the autumn, but we have had a commitment that we will have a chance for a technical review of the designs this summer in advance of that. So in total, I guess the motion is a little superfluous because all of these actions are already in place, but I totally understand the need to make another public commitment to it, and I appreciate that, and really pleased that it's across all of the groups. And so yes, we will certainly support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybe. Councillor Sandals.
Thank you, Chair. I think my colours return to normal, I hope. Just to agree with Councillor Taylor's motion and then Councillor Maybe's statement, really, I know that the whole team around the proposed walkway station have been delighted with the amount of engagement they've had, particularly with Catherine, but also the Cabinet, local members and MCC officers. As Catherine said, Councillor Crook and I attended the Senedd with the Magor group back in February, and it was brilliant to see the amount of cross-party support their presentation, which detailed the achievements so far received. John Griffiths MS had invited MSs from all parties, and all present promised to raise awareness of it at every opportunity. The Magor group have been fantastic ambassadors for this unique walkway station, and their expertise and tenacity regarding it is a real inspiration to us all. Check out their website where all of the information concerning developments, meetings, achievements and next steps can be found. They have their AGM tonight, all welcome. Please check the website for details, and John and I will be there and look forward to hearing about their most recent achievements. Finally, as Catherine has noted, the Magor walkway station already has universal support, and I suppose this motion just serves to remind people how much lobbying and campaigning continues to go on, perhaps unseen by some, to get the Magor walkway station to be a quick win in terms of the Burns delivery programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sandals. Councillor Crook.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would agree with both parties. We really need this station. Magor walkway station is pretty unique because it's the only walkway station that's on the statutory books in the UK. It's tied up with 5 other stations and needs to be separated so that a quick win can be achieved. It's also vital to the infrastructure of Magor and Undy going forward, especially with all the new LDP sites which are in progress and which are about to start. I would say that the amazing group of volunteers have worked jolly hard in the last 10 years, and they're not going to give up, and we are behind them all the way. I'm privileged to be one of those volunteers to support them, and we need to really get behind this project for the sake of Magor and Undy as a whole going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Councillor Fuchs.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we need more sustainable travel and more affordable travel, especially with the cost of living crisis biting across the county. So I'm really, really pleased to be part of an administration that is supporting this Magor walkway. I'm also really, really grateful to all the volunteers who've obviously done an incredible amount of work pushing this forward. This station is absolutely essential for commuters, but also for young people and older people who can't drive. So yes, once again, thank you to all the volunteers who are pushing this forward, to the officers and Councillor Maybe for being the Cabinet member driving this forward, and I'm really delighted to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Fuchs. Councillor Peter Strong.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to support this motion. It really is a landmark piece of innovation for Sevenside, and I think its importance will be enhanced by the other planned improvements to the rail service in the area. And in this context, it would probably be remiss of me as member for Roggett not to mention the planned improvements for Severn Tunnel Junction. I note that a planning application has just this week been lodged by Network Rail for a new footbridge at Severn Tunnel Junction, which will mean that that infamous car park to the south of the railway line will at last have cars parked in it. The Welsh Government has given approval, of course, for a link road from the 4245 down to Severn Tunnel Junction, although unfortunately not north up to the M48 as yet. And all this is preparation for proposals for trains travelling direct from Severn Tunnel Junction to London for the first time in a generation. I'm not sure if Magor will get those direct trains, but hopefully the timetables will be coordinated so that it will be just a short hop from Magor to Severn Tunnel Junction and then off to London. It will also open Sevenside, the delights of Sevenside to people who want to come down from London. And perhaps it's not too fanciful to imagine a day when Councillor Crook can get a direct train from Sevenside to Wembley to watch his beloved Under United play at the stadium. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strong. Councillor Taylor, would you like to...
Thank you for all your contributions, and I'm very aware of the support that's been provided by the Cabinet member, and of course Councillor Crook and Sandals, and I know Councillor Crook's been involved with the group for many years prior to being an elected member, and has provided a lot of support, for which we're very grateful. And indeed, Councillor Dimmock, when she was the local member, was very supportive, as was the I've indicated in my motion, the group's always enjoyed cross-party support, which is really, really positive to see. I think we're really grateful that you've agreed to just further write and highlight the potential for a quick win. We understand that there may be ways in which Transport for Wales and Network Rail wish to work, but I think the key point that we keep making is that actually Magor isn't dependent on those changes to the main line, and that is something that we are trying wholeheartedly to get across to those partners. And indeed, I mean, let's hope we can all get a direct train in the not too distant future, and that Councillor Crook, as you mentioned, can get a train to watch Undy wherever they're playing, whether that be in Newport or Wembley. But yes, thank you for your support. We're very grateful, and I know that the fantastic volunteers, some of whom you mentioned, are indeed probably watching this debate today, as is their want, and they were very keen, as always, to keep highlighting, because the more we highlight this, the more likelihood is that we can perhaps see it brought forward and delivered. We know that the DFT have really supported this since the outset, and now, hopefully that we are seeing this behind the scenes work going on. We'll see that train an awful lot quicker than before. But as Ted Hand, one of the founder members, always says, it really is back to the future. Thank you very much, members.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and thank you, Councillor Dimmock, for seconding that. So we go straight to the vote on that. Thank you. That's been carried. Thank you. Right. Moving on to item 8, members' questions. Item first is Councillor John. Over to you.
Thank you. Will the Cabinet member make a statement, please, on provision for the Gypsy and Traveller community in Monmouthshire?
Thank you for your question, Councillor John. As members are aware, we have an obligation to undertake an assessment of the need for Gypsy and Traveller pitches in line with the Welsh Government guidance and along with the housing needs assessment. And the current needs assessment is for 13 pitches within the lifetime of the new local development plan. And all members have had the opportunity to take part in a process to identify a short list of sites in the council's ownership with the intention of including sites in the local development plan, which is being prepared for submission to Welsh Government in November. And we have again put out a call to landowners and to the Gypsy and Traveller community themselves for proposals which can be considered alongside sites proposed by the council. I would also like to add that I'm greatly heartened by the constructive challenge and contributions from the People's Scrutiny Committee yesterday. And I'd like to thank the members of the committee and the public who attended, and in particular the chair, Councillor Crook, for his handling of the meeting. I'm heartened because the challenge was not to the principle of providing a site or sites, but simply because some of the sites that were proposed were considered not to be good enough, and because the committee felt that the process undertaken had not sufficiently put the people who will live on those sites at the heart of our decision making. So I'm very glad that the discussion yesterday, I think, reflected our whole council's ambition and commitment to providing successful sites where Gypsy and Traveller people can settle and live. And this is part of our renewed commitment to affordable housing. But of course, the challenge is how we get there. So following the discussion at People's Scrutiny yesterday of the sites shortlisted through that process, I'm reflecting, discussing the feedback from scrutiny with officers and with Cabinet colleagues, and I expect to make a further announcement at the Cabinet meeting next week.
Thank you, Councillor Birch. Councillor John.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. And absolutely, I think the whole council would share the aspirations of providing the most successful sites we can for the Gypsy Traveller community. But yesterday in People's Scrutiny Committee, you said you would be guided by the committee. Committee members firmly rejected the sites that have been proposed. And obviously in the recommendations that have since been published for the Cabinet meeting next week, you've recommended to Cabinet colleagues that we proceed to a formal consultation on those 4 sites. Can you tell us when you will be revising these recommendations or perhaps withdrawing the paper altogether for next week's meeting, please?
As I've said, Councillor John, following the discussion at People's Scrutiny yesterday of the sites shortlisted, I'm reflecting. I am discussing the feedback from scrutiny with officers and with Cabinet colleagues, and I expect to make a further announcement at the Cabinet meeting next week.
Thank you, Councillor John. Councillor Birch. 8.2, Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Is it okay if I remain seated for this?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. My question is to, will the Cabinet Member for Education make a statement about the recent Home to School Transport 2024-25 consultation? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. More than happy to do that. The consultation has now completed. It took place between the 31st of May and the 29th of June. We put out a press release at the commencement of the consultation period, supported by regular social media posts throughout the duration of the time. In addition to that, all schools were provided with information about the consultation at the start of the process, and children were asked to remind parents about the consultation throughout the period. Perhaps most importantly, the commissioning team contacted every user of the service and asked them if they would like to contribute towards the consultation. It should have come to people's scrutiny yesterday, but because of the extended discussion about the Gypsy and Traveller site, it was pulled. I agreed to that happening because of the importance of that discussion, and the scrutiny officer is now trying to rearrange that date. Obviously, I will pay very great notice to the feelings of scrutiny committee, and therefore, at the moment, I have a report that I will present to that committee, and no response from them. However, Councillor Brown, rather than go through that report in its entirety, there may well be bits that scrutiny just are not keen about at all. So perhaps I could move straight to your supplementary. If there are areas you would specifically like to question me about, rather than me going through the whole report, I'm happy to answer specific points you might like to raise.
Yes, I would like to ask a supplementary question, as this is the last council meeting before decision making by the Cabinet in early September. I understand the People Committee meeting on this subject is likely to be in August. I am pleased that the draft policy for 24-25 on home to school transport, the Council has retained the same distances for primary and secondary school children to qualify for free school transport, and that for faith schools this is based on faith as opposed to denomination, clarifying the disparity between the introduction to the consultation and the draft policy. I am concerned about the use of public buses rather than free dedicated school buses from a safeguarding aspect, as although the bus driver may have a DBS check, travelling members of the public on the same bus do not have to have one, as they are not working or volunteers, and the driver has limited scope to see what is going on in the back of the bus. I am also concerned about the definition of a safe walking route, which defines a safe route as one in which the authority is satisfied that the route between home and school is sufficiently dangerous and below the distances, and whether the accompanying adult is at risk from the traffic situation, as well as having concerns about the reduction in the notice period for parents being told of a withdrawal of transport. This draft policy is contrary to the Learner Traveller measure on page 81, which defines risk and safety as follows. Risk is the chance or probability that a person will be harmed or experience an adverse effect if exposed to a hazard. Safety is the condition of being protected from or unlikely to cause danger, risk or injury.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm just about to ask my question. You're sorry. Please that was just the context for the question. Please can the Cabinet member confirm that prior to the next scrutiny meeting, the Cabinet member will fully consider these safeguarding concerns, shortage of notice to parents of withdrawal, applying a too high threshold of sufficiently dangerous and adult criteria rather from a child and young person's perspective as to whether or not a walking route is safe, when the primary concern should be to protect children and young people from danger or risk of injury when determining whether or not a walking route to school is deemed to be safe. It should not be determined on the basis of is it sufficiently dangerous, as safety is defined as the condition of being protected from or unlikely to cause danger, risk or injury to our children and young people in Monmouthshire.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Perhaps if I could address the issue of the use of public routes, first of all. We, at present, use some public routes for our secondary school pupils. I see them come past my house on the way to King Henry every day, and to the best of my knowledge, there has never been any incident of a safeguarding nature on them. I would seek to point out to all members that there is no proposal that primary-aged children would be put onto public transport. It is only secondary-age pupils where this has been a suggestion that will go to scrutiny. All drivers of public service vehicles that carry children in this way will be subject to the same DBS checks as those who are simply driving school transport vehicles. And while I hear the point that Councillor Brown raises, I hope that she can also consider some of the wider implications that I am trying to wrestle with in terms of the climate catastrophe facing the world today and need to get to zero carbon as quickly as we can as a council. And if we can, as part of our support for that, reduce the number of vehicles being used in school transport, then we will be playing a very real contribution to that, I think. The second issue is around safe routes. I would point out to Councillor Brown that the decision about a safe route is not taken by an officer in CYP. It's taken by an objective measure using procedures set out in the travel measure on our behalf. And I certainly don't accept that we're looking at routes that are least dangerous rather than those that are safe. It's perhaps worth pointing out that wherever we do designate a route as being safe, again, we're primarily talking about older children using that route on their own. And if it is a primary age child walking along, we would expect, while they are at primary school, that there would be an adult supervising the child on their way to school. It is a very difficult area, and I certainly have sympathies with the points raised by Councillor Brown. But I would point out that on the one hand, we have a statutory duty to get children to school, which I fully accept. On the other hand, that is costing me in the current financial year £6.5 million. It is also contributing to the amount of pollution that we are pumping into the air every day. If we can get to a position where we are in a greater harmony with our planet, as well as getting our children safely to school, I would be a much happier Cabinet member. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Grogan. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Item 8.3 rather, sorry, Councillor Keir.
Thank you very much, Chair. Will the Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Environment make a statement on the Council's policy regarding the cutting of hedgerows and verges on sea roads and those adjacent to road junctions and crossings? Thank you.
Thank you, I certainly will. I've had to write this down because it's quite complicated. Obviously, as a Highways Authority, we have a duty of care to ensure that the highways are clear of obstructions and to ensure safety for road users. And that does include ensuring that roadside vegetation doesn't cause a hazard. So the majority of roadside verges and hedges throughout Monmouthshire, particularly along the sea roads, are, however, in private ownership, and it's these private owners who have a legal duty to maintain them to prevent encroachment onto the highway. Where this isn't carried out, the authority can then use enforcement powers on landowners to cut back hedges and verges where they're causing an obstruction, encroaching on the carriageway, or adversely impacting on visibility to an extent that could be considered hazardous, for example, on road junctions. The Council does also have powers to cut back vegetation and recover costs, but that obviously can be quite protracted and resource-intensive process, so that's not the preferable option, it's a last resort. So to balance the administration and time costs of enforcement to ensure that roadside vegetation doesn't impact on safe use of the highway, the Council covers the costs of cutting a large proportion of the 6,500 kilometres of road verges once a year. This does create a cost pressure on the authority, but it needs to be assessed against residents and visitor expectations, public complaints, liabilities, and our duties under the Highways Act 1980 to maintain safety for road users. The Grounds and Cleansing Department carry out some of the verge cutting using their own staff and plant equipment, and also have contractual arrangements in place with local farmers and contractors who carry out the work on behalf of highways. On renewal of the verge mowing contract, a conscious decision was taken to prioritise visibility displays and C and R, which is unclassified roads, as these presented the greatest risk to road users. You might expect the priorities to be for more major routes. I was quite surprised when I learnt this. With the hierarchy going, you would think from motorways to A roads, B roads, C roads, and ultimately unclassified. But so why do we do this? The rationale is in fact based on the fact that C and R roads are generally narrower, so vegetation encroachment has a greater impact, pushing more vulnerable road users further into the carriageway, and because these are more important through routes for local people. These routes also don't benefit from the high volumes of vehicles that actually naturally keeps back vegetation growth and keeps it at bay because of the action of regular traffic going through them. So verge mowing starts in June each year, with visibility displays on major junctions completed first, and with the intention of completing all schedules, including B and A roads, by September. The verges, which are predominantly grass or brush, are cut back 1 metre. Where there's no verge, there's a vertical cut up to 1 metre, and it's carried out. Junction and visibility displays, such as bends, are cut to allow full visibility up to 4 metre cut to ground level. But this year, I have to say, has seen extremely strong verge side growth, and we've had many requests to alter schedules to prioritise certain wards and areas. While each request is prioritised on its own merit in terms of health and safety, it is an ineffective and costly use of contractors to stop and start schedules to focus on single lane issues. So that again is something we prefer not to do for very obvious reasons. So going forward, we'll be raising awareness and increasing the use of enforcement powers on landowners to carry out their duties where the hedges belong to them and verges belong to them. Many landowners do understand and comply with the duty and work with us proactively, but not all do. Not all are necessarily knowledgeable about it, and some residents moving into the countryside are not aware of their duties on this as well. And there's also the very big focus at the moment on ash dieback, because that's the greatest danger to road users. So to really just to sum up, I know it's long and complicated. I apologise for the length of that answer. But we're very aware of the environmental benefits of verges and hedges, and we really are trying to balance as well as possible the needs of road and safety against the benefits of keeping verges uncut wherever we can. The ones that we've been identified as of significant interest and remaining uncut are identified with round walls of white and yellow flowers on the road. So I hope that elected members will feel able to support officers in raising awareness about the approach and why it's done in this way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Mabey. In formulating my question for today, I was cognizant of, I'll call it a nod from our Chief Executive when we first joined as Council about working relationships with our officers. And I think the phrase was something along the lines of, I don't wish to call you in for a coffee chat without the coffee. So my question was aimed about facts and policy rather than criticism of officers. I think that's important. And that's really on the back of a cyclical inbox that probably all of us are experiencing. It tends to be potholes during the winter, and sort of those of us who were in more rural wards have during the summer. I think it is important, as you said, Councillor Mabey, that we report back to our constituents on a factual basis and to encourage us to report what is exactly going on. But also I think it's important that we give the feedback to officers as well about the priorities that our constituents have. I think it's fair that it should be both ways. I think there's been mention previously about No Mow May, and I must add I'm a massive fan of No Mow May, and indeed worked closely with Nigel Leeworthy around the award-winning Nature Isn't Neat scenario when I was chair of Usk in Bloom. And in actual fact, that was a very considerable part of the presentation that we gave when we won World in Bloom in 2018. Can I just take this opportunity to thank Carl Toohey for his support that he does give us on this particular point, and I'm delighted to report back that my hedge is now cut, so thank you, Carl and team. And just talking about that cyclical point, if I'm being a bit cheeky, can I thank Carl and Steve Lane for over the last couple of days, organising the pothole machine demonstrations. That's the other cyclical point in my inbox. But specifically, I've been asked, Councillor Maybe, should we be still encouraging constituents to report these overgrown hedges, etc., via the Mon app procedures? And also, what flexibility is there, as you alluded to there, about there will be moments in our summers where there is extra growth. So is there flexibility where we can ask for earlier cutting as appropriate rather than rigidity? Thank you.
Thanks. I'll do my best to answer that. I think of course, if you see something as being dangerous and causing a road hazard, it would be certainly worthwhile reporting that. But it's really just about understanding the balance and sharing that with residents, which from what you've said, you completely get it and share and support that. So I'm delighted about that. But yeah, please, where there's a hazard, no one's perfect, and there are going to be some areas where we don't know exactly what's going on all over the whole of the county. So hazardous things that really obliterate visibility and you see as dangerous, then please do continue to report those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baby. Thank you, Councillor Keir. I'd like to welcome Councillor McKenna to the meeting. We will be taking a short break after this next question, so maybe you'd like to join us at that point, Councillor McKenna. So, item 8.4, Councillor Pavia.
Chair, Councillor Pavia has had to step out of the meeting for a couple of minutes, so has asked me to ask his question on his behalf. The question is, will the Cabinet Member for Education make a statement on ongoing concerns at Caldecott School, please?
Thank you, Councillor John. I would be delighted to do that. Members may well be aware from recent press coverage that Caldecott School is currently working through some challenges. And these are predominantly focused around the issue of the management of behaviour in the school. It's probably well worth pointing out that Caldecott is not alone in facing these challenges, and it is one of those unknown outcomes of the pandemic, I think, that particularly at secondary schools, there have been some really great challenges for the behaviour and indeed the greater mental health of a considerable number of pupils. But that's not to say that we're not looking specifically with a focus at Caldecott. The management of the challenges at Caldecott have crystallised into the consideration of industrial action by the two main teacher unions in the school, the NASUWT and the National Education Union. And clearly these are concerning developments that I would not wish for a moment to underplay. And so what have we tried to do so far? Working with our partners in the Education Achievement Service, we have recently undertaken a detailed 2-day review throughout the school so that as the local authority we have a clear view of the challenges facing the school. And there have been 6 clear findings that have come from that review, which I am happy to share with members of council. I'll also try to be clear as to what some of the language means, because it's written in the style of Estin, where words have specific meanings in terms of percentages of pupils that they apply to. So I'll try to make this as clear as I possibly can. So the 6 findings of our very recent review conducted last week. The school is committed to improving its culture and working collaboratively to develop effective whole school strategies for behaviour for learning. Everyone agrees that the school could be a successful learning organisation with the right changes.
The second finding was that overall, which in Estin terms means over 90%, most pupils, over 90%, are courteous and welcoming towards visitors. In many cases, which means over 70% of pupils, there is appropriate behaviour in and around school. And a majority of pupils, which means over 60%, reported that they develop positive relationships with their teachers and are well supported by them to learn. The next finding was that many pupils, which is 70%, noted that they did not fully understand the behaviour for learning policy currently in place and felt they had no voice in its creation. However, they were aware of the rules and the sanctions. Some of the listed sanctions within the policy they felt were not fair or reasonable. The next finding was that there are areas where the behaviour for learning policy needs to be reviewed and simplified to aid its understanding for all stakeholders. The fifth finding was that, as is evident from the current industrial action, there is not currently an effective whole school vision, culture and ethos to build and establish effective relationships across the whole school community. And finally, the teaching and learning in the school is at times inhibited by the behaviour of some learners. At this time, I want to reassure members that as an authority, we are working closely with the school, its governing body, and the trade unions to bring about improvement in this situation. Along with the review that has given us such a clear baseline and a shared understanding of where we are in the school, we are working closely with them to support them in any specific issues, but also to develop an effective and wide-ranging support plan for the autumn term to develop the relationships in the school. And it is my sincere hope this will be in place and accepted by the school leadership by the 1st of September. The Chief Officer for Children and Young People has been working closely with the school and the unions to find a path of mediation and agreement that will allow the threat and risk of industrial action materialising. And I would certainly like to pay my personal thanks to Will McLean, who over the last 2 weeks has spent, I would guess, part of every one of his working days in seeking to bring about some clarity and resolution to the situation that we are finding. The one fact that emerged through our work with the school was that there is a shared ambition to improve the position that the school finds itself in from all stakeholders. And I'm grateful for that commitment. I would echo that commitment to myself and all of my cabinet colleagues. As we reach the end of term and the end of the academic year, I hope that all members of the school community are able to step away from school and find time to relax and recharge after the conclusion of this school year. And I would take this opportunity to thank all our school communities for the work they have done over the past academic year. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor John, is a supplementary?
Thank you. Firstly, can I associate myself with the Cabinet members' remarks? We also would like to thank all the school staff for everything they've done to support Monmouthshire pupils over the last academic year. I think you're absolutely right that it's important to recognise the significant impact that the pandemic had on children and young people, the impact that it had on their mental health. And I regret that schools were closed for longer in Wales than they were in other parts of the UK. I know the Cabinet Member recognises, as well as anyone, the responsibilities of both the local authority and the EAS in offering support, and both support and challenge to our schools in a multidisciplinary approach. And I'm grateful to him for setting out the findings of that review. I think it's important to recognise that the school has many strengths, but clearly we want every school to be the best it can be, so shortcomings do need to be addressed. I do regret the megaphone diplomacy that a number of Cabinet members recently engaged in, and I hope that the relationship between the administration and the school has been smoothed. And I wonder if the Cabinet Member can commit to a members' workshop in the very near future so that councillors can be briefed on the support and challenge that's being offered to the school. I think being able to have those discussions in a private environment sooner rather than later so that we can offer reassurance to families in Monmouthshire would be very constructive and helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support on those key issues. That's very much appreciated. And to respond to specific points that you've raised there, yes, support and challenge is needed in all our schools. And as you know, I spent many years trying to do that before I lost my hair and joined the council, not necessarily in that order. I would reassure members that I have had very positive contact with the head teacher. We're working closely, as I mentioned already, the chief officer. These are our people. They're our teachers, they're our staff, but just, if not more importantly, they're our pupils. And as our pupils, we want them to succeed. I can certainly give you my pledge that we will take whatever action we consider necessary, and we will give every piece of support that we consider to be necessary in helping this school. And I think from your own time doing the job that I'm now attempting to do, you will remember other instances of schools that have been severely challenged, where with the help and support of the local authority, they have pulled themselves around and they are now thriving in a way that they were not a few years ago. I see no reason at all, because there is that commitment from staff and from leadership at the school, that we can't bring about a similar improvement at Caldicott. In terms of a briefing, we are about to go into the start of the summer holidays. I hope that that will in itself take some steam out of the situation, but nonetheless we will come back in early September and we will face these difficulties again. Certainly I am happy to say that we as an administration will try to hide nothing. I think that we as a collective council show a great commitment to the education of children in our county, and I would pay tribute to your role and indeed the role of the last leader of the council, who has moved on to other things in Cardiff, who was also personally very committed to the education of our children. So yes, as things develop, I am prepared and happy to keep members fully involved. I'm not sure I'd like at this moment to say exactly what form that will take, but certainly we will not hide anything. And if a members' forum is the best way to take that forward, yes, we will do that.
Thank you, Councillor Croker. Thank you, Councillor John, and thank you, Councillor Pavia, for the question.
Item 9 in the agenda is the new date for the next meeting, which is the 21st of September. Councillors, please make a note of that. Item 10, to exclude the press and public from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information. I think at this point we'll take a break and then resume.
Can we make that break, councillors, about 4 minutes, please? I'd like to have you back in your chairs at 10 to 4, if at all possible. And if you're not back in your chair, you'll miss the start of what I'm going to say at 10 to 4. I'd like to have a short opportunity to bring you up to speed with the events of earlier this week,